Well, hi there. My name is Ben Gothard, founder and CEO of Gothard Enterprises, author of CEO at 20, a little book for big dreams. And welcome to the first part of how to build a content empire. Now, in this video training, I'm going to talk about content creation. Now, what is content, right? I'm going to go a lot more in depth into this, but just at an overview level, it's the pictures on Facebook, that's content. The pictures on Instagram, the videos on YouTube, all that's content. Whenever you create something, you write something, you record something, that's all content. And content can be used for a lot of different purposes. I want to show you, along with one of my partners, Dr. David Zemmels, who's a PhD, who helped me come up with these ideas. We actually want to show you how to use content to build a media empire online, right? And so this is the first part in that, where we just break down content creation, but specifically in this video, we're going to talk about the importance of keeping that content creation in-house, meaning you're the expert, you need to create the content. Rather than outsourcing it, we're going to be talking about why it's so important to keep your content in-house. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, so let's jump right into the concept of content creation and the importance of keeping it in-house. Now, it's important to understand that what I'm talking about here is a distinction between outsourcing your content creation, which would be having other people take pictures or take videos, create text, or build any sort of content that you would then be sharing with your audience. So it is the difference between outsourcing content and building it in-house. Now, there is a big debate amongst people who both create content and people who publish content and companies who do these things about whether or not businesses should create content internally or move to a more outsourcing method of hiring out content creators for them. And in this video, I really want to go into depth of why you should keep your content creation in-house. So let's begin. The first reason why is that you are the expert. As the business owner, as the entrepreneur, and as the one who's making the decisions, you are the expert here. So you have spent the time to develop your skill set, to build up a list of clients, to build up your business, and that is something that you have done over a period of time. Now, you have experience in your field, in your industry. You have knowledge that people who are on the outside just do not have. That's why you are the expert. And when people are trying to work with you and they're learning about you, they're consuming your content, then they need to understand that you are the expert. And so they need to be consuming content that comes directly from you as the expert. And when you outsource content creation, a lot of the times you're going to have people who are ghostwriting it for you, meaning they're going to go online and they're going to search on Google the topics that you want them to write about. And they're going to be putting information on content that has your name, information that may or may not be accurate, information that may or may not be helpful, and information that will not reflect you in the most positive manner. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say that you are an expert on dog training. And actually later in the video, I'm going to do 3 very specific examples and go in depth. But let's say you're an example that you are a dog trainer and you've been training dogs for 7 years now. You are an expert, okay? You can pretty much get any dog to learn any trick. Now, the people that want to do business with you, They want to learn the tricks of the trade. They want to learn the trade secrets from you because you are the expert. They don't want to learn from somebody who is simply copying and pasting an article from Google onto your blog and calling it a day. No, they want to see you as the expert going in depth. They want to see you in the trenches. They want to see you actually doing what you say that you do. And if you're an expert, then this is easy for you, because as an expert, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to fake. You don't have to put up a facade. You just have to show your expertise. And you have to demonstrate that expertise, and you have to demonstrate it over and over and over again. And if you truly are an expert and you want people to work with you because you are an expert, then the only way to show them that you're an expert, and not just tell them, but to show them, is to consistently create your own content. And in order to consistently do that without losing the quality of advice, the quality of knowledge, the quality of content, it has to come from you, because again, you are the expert. You are the people, you are the person who your people, your customers want to work with. So the first reason, and one of the biggest reasons why you should keep content in-house, content creation in-house, is because you are the expert. Again, if you outsource this, then the person who is creating the content for you is probably not going to be an expert in your field. And if they are, then they're probably not going to be as good as you. And if they are as good as you or better, then they're probably not going to be the ones that are creating content for other people. If you're an expert like yourself, then you have your own business. You've been doing it. You've been in the trenches. So when you outsource your content creation, then you're saying to your customers, I'm not going to share my information with you. I'm not going to share the best information that I have with you. Instead, I'm going to get some freelancer to come and write articles for me or shoot videos for me, and I'm just going to share that. So you're doing both a disservice to yourself as a business owner, because you're not putting your best foot forward, because you're not putting your own expertise out there, you're not putting your own expertise on the line, but you're also doing a disservice to your customers and prospective customers, because when you put out content for people to consume, at the end of the day, you're trying to provide value to them, and you're trying to give them something that they did not have before, or you're trying to enhance the knowledge of something that they did have before, but you're trying to make it better. So how do you do that? By sharing your expertise. If you outsource content creation, that is a surefire way to take out the expertise of your content. And you need to have your knowledge, your skills, and your influence come through in your content. It is an extension of your business, it is an extension of your personal brand, and it needs to be done in-house by you. So that's the first reason. Now the second reason is a consistent brand voice. If you are putting out content internally, meaning you're creating it yourself, or you have a team that works with you to create the content, then you are going to be consistent in your brand voice. You're going to be consistent with the messages that you're putting out to the audience, to your audience, to your community, and that is extremely important. So let's say that you do decide to outsource, and you find a writer that it's satisfactory and they can create content for you, or somebody who makes videos for you and they do a good enough job. Well, after a while, chances are that person or team or company is going to move on, and you may not always be able to have that sort of professional relationship with them. So when that person goes, then not only are you stuck without any content for a while, but you also have to spend time and money and resources in finding a new outsourced person to or company or business to do the content creation for you, but also it's going to be different. The way that one person writes 99.9% of the time cannot be replicated by anybody else. That's just how writing is. It's just how content creation is. Content creation is creation. It is part science and part art, and it's a performance. So if you're the one that's always creating the content, then you're going to have a consistent brand voice. And people know this is the person that I want to listen to. This is the brand that I'm used to. This is the brand that I'm accustomed to. This is the brand that I trust. And so over time, you can build up authority in your niche by having that consistent brand voice. Now, not only is a consistent brand voice important, but the inverse is also true. An inconsistent brand voice can really turn off your potential customers. So let's say, for example, that they've been listening, John has been listening to a radio show for the past 10 years. And he always listens at the same time. He always hears his favorite radio announcer, and he listens to the same shows every week. Well, let's say that guy retires, the guy who was representing that radio show, the brand voice. Let's say he retires. Well, now John is in a predicament because he may or may not like the new person who comes onto that radio show because there was an inconsistency in the brand voice. And people are very particular about the content that they consume, especially your potential customers, because your potential customers are smart. And if they've been consuming content from an expert, then they will be used to that level of quality, that level of expertise, that consistent brand voice. And so if there's an inconsistency, then red flags are going to go up and they're going to say, well, what happened? What changed? Is something wrong inside of the company? Is something wrong internally? Well, now that's a red flag to me, because if they can't even stay consistent with the content that they're creating, how can I expect them to be consistent in business? How can I expect them to consistently deliver me results? And so when you have, let's go back to the John example, if the new radio host comes on and John doesn't like him, then that radio just lost a listener. And that radio station lost a listener because of inconsistency in the brand voice. So let's take it back to your business. Let's say that you are creating content and you're the expert and you're the one that is teaching, you're the one that is creating the content, you're writing it, you're filming it, whatever sort of content you're putting out, whatever that may be. Over time, just like John fell in love with that radio station at that specific time with that specific host, people are going to start liking you. They're going to start trusting you. They're going to get accustomed to taking your advice. And that is the kind of influence that you need to have. Because if you're going to establish yourself as a brand, as an authority, as an expert, then people are going to need time to recognize you as such. Say, for example, Tony Robbins. Everybody knows who Tony Robbins is, and that is because he has consistently had a very strong brand. And he has a very consistently strong brand voice. Tony Robbins does not have other people go up and speak for him. Tony Robbins speaks for himself because people want to listen to Tony Robbins because he is the expert, and it is his brand voice that people are listening to, that people trust, that people want. So, if you want to become the Tony Robbins of your industry, of your niche, regardless of what industry or niche that is, then you need to be consistent in your brand voice. One way, one surefire way to make sure that you stay consistent is by keeping your content creation in-house. So let's say that you don't want to keep it in-house. And I'm going to revisit this. I know we've spoken about this a little bit, but I want to revisit it because it's important. Let's say you have a content creator that you like. and they decide, you two decide to part ways professionally for whatever reason, and you bring in another person. Their content may be of worse quality. Their content may be of better quality, but you're taking that risk. You're taking the risk with your brand. You're showing inconsistency with your brand voice, and you are not in control of your own destiny. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I think it is extremely important to remain in control of your own destiny, to stay as the forefront of your business. Because if you're the one making decisions and you're betting on yourself as far as success goes, then you can control the outcome. Now, some things like market conditions, or let's say you're an investor, the prices of the stock market, there are a few things out of your control. But one of the things that you can control is consistency. And it is that consistency in brand voice that will lead to authority over time. It will lead to influence over time. And it will lead to expertise over time. And all these things are things that your customers are recognizing about you and about your brand. So the second reason why you need to keep content creation in-house is in order to keep a consistent brand voice. Now let's move on. The third point that I'd like to make is that you need to convey your company culture. Now, when I say company culture, that includes a lot of things. It includes how your employees treat each other within the company, how you treat your employees, how your employees treat customers, how you treat customers, how customers interact with each other. Everything that goes on inside of your company is a result of the culture that you have set. And if you've been in business for a while, then you've probably taken a lot of time and effort to build the culture that you want and to instill that culture into your business. Now, it takes a very long time to build up a strong company culture. And that company culture needs to be conveyed in your content. Now, if you outsource your content, the person who is doing that content creation for you, they are not going to be as in tune with your company culture as you are. They're not going to know the things that you and your team do at 9 a.m. to get pumped up in the morning. They're not going to know the things that go on at 5 p.m. at the office on a Friday to welcome in the weekend. They're not going to know what you do for Christmas. They're not going to know what you do for any different holiday. They're not going to know because they're not inside. They're not there every single day. They're not putting in the work that you are. And so they're not going to be as in tune with your company culture. So when they try to share that company culture with your customers, it's going to get lost. And one surefire way to turn off customers is to make them think that you have no company culture. Because people do not do business with machines. People do business with people. And people are attracted to other people who have culture. So if you, through your content, can consistently convey your company culture, and this ties back in with number 2, because you need to consistently be putting out your brand voice, and your brand voice is part of your company culture. So I guess 2 is a subset of 3, but they're so important that I wanted to separate them and make the distinction, but they're still very important. So when you, as the expert, as the driver of the brand voice and the driver of the company culture, are the one creating content, you will not lose that message. You will not lose that feel. You will not lose all of the work that you have put in to create that culture, to build that culture, to feed that culture, and to let it grow. So by consistently creating your own content, by keeping content creation in-house, you are able to convey your company culture. And it comes through in everything that you do. in your content. It's the way that you speak. It's the way in a video, the way that you dress. It's the way that you come across to your customers, come across to the people who are listening to you, who are taking advice from you. It comes across in everything you do. So let's say you put out a blog post and you are talking about an interesting story that happened at the workplace last week. Well, that is part of your company culture. People are going to say, hey, these people aren't just there to do business. They're not just this, they're not hiding behind this corporate veil. They're actually people. They're real people. And they're real people that I can trust, and they're real people that I want to do business with. So when you convey your company culture, and you do so consistently through content creation, you are giving your customers the confidence that they need to do business with you. And it is this strength, this benefit, that I'm even broaching the subject of conveying your company culture. I wouldn't be saying these things if they weren't important. And at Gothard Enterprises, we take a lot of pride in our company culture. You know, we are a company that was built in southern Louisiana, in New Orleans. And we're proud of our city, we're proud of our food, we're proud of the culture that we have here. And so we like to let that show through in our business. You know, as you can tell, most of the content that we produce is sort of informal. You know, we keep it professional because that's who we are, but we never lose that homey feel. And hopefully you, as the listener, never feel like you're being talked to through a corporate veil. You know, we try to be very transparent with our company culture, and that's just how we run things. But for you, it's going to be different, and you know, every organization is run differently. But the fact is, in the long run, if you don't let your company culture come through and you don't convey that culture on a regular basis through in-house content creation, then how do you expect your customers to know that? How do you expect prospects to know that? And by depriving them of that culture, you're missing out on a fantastic opportunity to convince them to work with you. Because again, as I said, people work with people. People want to work with people that they trust. And one way to establish trust is to share your company culture, to convey that through your content creation. So the third example, or the third idea rather, the third reason for keeping content creation in-house is to convey your company culture. So at this point, I want to dive into three specific examples of companies and industries that have a lot of potential content to create. Because I think that a lot of people, while they may agree with the reasons to keep the content creation in-house, they might not be doing content creation at all because they might be thinking that there's no content that they can create. They don't know what to put out there. They don't know what to do. So I want to dive into three examples, three mini case studies of companies that are business types, business models that you may not think traditionally would put out content, but I want to go into exactly how they can create content. So first is interior design. Now you might be thinking, oh, interior design, they are behind the scenes, they can't really put out much content, there's nothing that they can really share with their audience that will, one, establish them as an expert, two, to consistently share that brand voice, and to three, convey that company culture. And I want to tell you that that's absolutely possible. You know, one of the clients that Gothard Enterprises has actually worked with, one of the brands that we've worked with, they were a very successful interior, and still are a very successful interior design business. And one of the best parts of working with that company was talking with the owner and hearing all these stories about working with the owner's different clients and hearing about how they overcame this problem and how they overcame that problem. And the owner would sit with me for, sometimes over an hour and just talk about all of the clients and talk about all these stories, and it was really interesting. And I found myself really buying into the culture there and really falling in love with that brand. And it is that same type of content that would be perfect for consumers, for customers, because people want to buy into something. And if they're going to buy from you, then they're going to need to buy into your personal brand first, and they need to buy into your brand, your company brand first. So for interior design, you may be thinking, well, that's easy to outsource because all they need to do is take pictures of their product and it's done. Well, if you're simply taking pictures of your product, you're still leaving a lot of content on the table. So just to give you some ideas for some content that you can create, you can do before and after pictures. You can go in and you can do a before picture and you can give a backstory to that. And you can say, this is what the customer, and you can leave the name out, but you can say, this is what the customer wanted, and this is how we went about suiting their needs. This is how we went about addressing their concerns and giving them the exact product that they wanted. And so there's a story behind everything. When you go look at some very old kitchen, a very historical kitchen, well, there's a story behind that. So every single piece of the interior of a home, or even if you do outside design, like grills and bar areas and that kind of stuff, everything has a story. And whether it be tying in the customer story of how they came to find you and how you work together and their story, give a little background on the customer. There's a lot of good content that can be taken out of that, and you can do that in video form. You can turn it into little short stories that you can publish as ebooks. You could write blog posts about it. There are tons of ways to share that content and tons of different mediums on which you can reach people through that content. So before and after pictures are one good way to do that. The second is case studies. Take one specific type of kitchen. Let's say you're an interior designer and you focus on kitchens. Take one kitchen that was very difficult to create. Take one kitchen that took you a year to build. Take your biggest kitchen that you've ever done as a business and do a case study on it. Why did you pick the things that you did? Why did you pick these appliances? What about the thickness of the walls? Why did you determine that the island would be a standalone island in the middle? Why did you not make it part of the bar area? There are so many decisions that go through picking all these different pieces of a kitchen that you can do a case study on it. You can let your customers in on the decision-making process. You can say, we thought about doing this, this, and this is why we chose this one, and these are the reasons why we didn't choose the other two. And you can go in depth with it, and you can really dive into the business and dive into the design part of it, because there are tons of people who are interested in that kind of stuff, especially your customers. And say you do one case study a week. Say you've been doing jobs for a while and you have a nice repertoire and you start going back and doing case studies with all these. Well, you could start a podcast, and it could be a weekly podcast. In each podcast, you talk about a different case study, a different job that you did, and you analyze it and you see what you did right with it and what you may have been able to do better with it, and you pick it apart, you analyze it, and you share that content, and you share your inner thoughts, you share your thinking. So case studies are huge. So far we've talked about before and afters and case studies for interior designers. The list really goes on and on. So I'm going to do a few more how-tos. How-tos. Let's say as an interior designer, you also sell appliances. Well, every single appliance not only has a story of where it came from, where that style, the influence for that style came from, but you also need to teach people how to use it. And one of the best ways to actually spark interest in different products and different appliances is to show people how well it works through a how-to, through a demonstration. So you can create content all around that. If you have a refrigerator and that refrigerator has 8 different features, then you can go on between 5 and 10 minutes each on every single feature. And you can bundle that up in an hour-long video all about this one refrigerator. And that may be one of 20 refrigerators that you keep in stock, that you sell. And so you can go in and you can do how-tos, you can do demos with each different appliance, with each different piece of your design. And again, you're letting your customers in, you're displaying your expertise, because how many other interior designers are going to take the time to go as in-depth with their appliances, with their products? Very few of them, if any, are actually going to go that in-depth and give how-tos, give demonstrations. So you can set yourself apart and you can create videos talking about how this fridge works, how that grill works. You can do different types of foods on the same grill. You can say, this is how you grill chicken on this. This is how you grill barbecue. This is how you do like barbecue sauce, barbecue chicken. This is how you do this kind of chicken, smoked chicken. And so you can do all these different types of chicken. Then you can move on to steak. Then you can do all the different cuts of steak. You can do pork. You can do fish. You can do whatever you want. So there really are no rules here. What I'm trying to get you to think about and do is to be creative with your content creation, because one of the best parts of keeping content creation in-house is that you get to decide exactly what it is that you put out there. So if you're an interior designer, do the before and afters, do the case studies, make your videos, make your podcasts, write your articles, write your blog posts, write your books, share content on tons of different mediums, okay? So we talked about before and afters, we talked about case studies, we talked about how-tos and demos, okay? Let's talk about culture. In every single city in the United States, there is a distinct culture. I live in New Orleans. The culture is very strong. But not every interior designer in New Orleans has the same style, has the same culture. And I'm sure they've been influenced by many different cultures, just as New Orleans has. They have too. And their designs might grab from some French inspiration or some Spanish inspiration. Or maybe they are really in tune with their Italian heritage. And so the culture of the designs are important to share. And not only does it make for fantastic content, because then you have a lot of backstory, you can give the history of the culture, you can give the history of the people behind the culture, you can give the history of all the different designs, and you can show, well, this part of the design came from this influence, but then right over here, this part of the design is actually a mixture of these two cultures, and it's all come together to really create this beautiful output, this beautiful product. And when you share that, when you share your enthusiasm for the business, and you share that culture with your customers, they're going to love it. And they're going to connect with you on a much more powerful and personal level. So everything that you do from then on is going to be a lot more effective, because you connected with them through this content, and they want to consume more, they want to see more, they want to learn more. And chances are, next time they want to get their kitchen done, they're going to say, oh wow, I really loved that special you did on this Italian heritage. So I want to use that style for my countertops, and then I want to mix it with that one episode you did on that specific fridge that you showed me a demonstration on. And so when you're just consistently in your customers' minds and they're consuming all of your content and you're building that connection with them, then they're going to want to do business with you. They're going to want to bring you business because they want a part of the action. They see what you're doing and they are going to fall in love with it. They're going to really connect with it and they're going to want to be a part of it. So, we talked about before and afters, case studies, how-tos, demos, culture. I'm going to give you a few more just because I do think it's important to diversify the type of content that you do create. So I want to talk about different ideas, different tips that you can give people. And you can give people these different tips and ideas based on what you're working on, based on what you're thinking about, what you're researching. So let's say that you're experimenting with this new style of microwave. Instead of stainless steel, you're going to go with this other half wooden, half metal toaster. I don't even know if that's possible. It's just an example. But for some reason, you decided to go with toaster A over toaster B. And there's a reason that you made that decision. Let your customers in on that reason. Share with them. Give them knowledge. Teach them. Educate them. Provide value to them for free through your content. And then they're going to trust you. You're going to have established that connection with them. And then the next time that they need something, they're going to come to you. And let's say that they want to remodel their kitchen. They're going to say, hey, that one idea that you gave me about switching from toaster B to toaster A, I really enjoyed toaster A. And it has been doing phenomenally for the past 5 years. I want to do business with you. I want you to remodel my entire kitchen because I trust you, because I've already consumed something of yours and I've had a good experience, so I want more of it. People are not dumb. When they find something good, they're gonna stick with it. And if your brand is consistently demonstrating its expertise, you're portraying your brand voice consistently, and you're conveying your company culture, then these people are going to connect with you through your content. And they're really going to turn from one-time customers into loyal brand advocates. And so when they're talking with their friends, they might even bring up your content. They might say, I watched this really cool video from XYZ company, and they gave me this really great interior design tip. You should try it out. And so they are now marketing for you without you even knowing about it, without you having to do anything, because you've been consistently putting out content in-house that is resonating with them, and you've connected with them on a personal basis, on a person-to-person basis, and you've really made an impression. So, for interior designers, there's tons of other ideas. You could talk about color schemes, you could talk about holidays, you could talk about different styles by room. You could talk about living space, whether apartment, condo, house. You could talk about the history of different things. You could talk about appliances. You could talk about all these different details. And you can really connect with your customers on an individual basis. So, interior designers, you may have thought that content creation shouldn't be done in-house, but it absolutely should. And if you take the time to invest your resources in different tools that you can use to create content, then over the long run you'll find that not only is it a lot less expensive to create your own content, because the best content creators out there charge a fortune, so you'll be saving money in the long run, but also you're going to have a lot better of a result, because when you, as the interior designer, as the business owner, are connecting with your customers on a very powerful level, then you're going to have long-term brand advocates, and that is only going to spread. Your influence is only going to spread. The people that follow you, that subscribe to you, that listen to you, are only going to spread. And so by keeping your interior design content creation in-house, you're really doing both yourself and your customers a service. So let's move on now to consulting. Now, personally, I think that this is kind of an easy one to see how you can create content and why you should be creating content in-house. But I still want to give some reasons why consultants should do it and a few ideas for what they could do for content creation. So, back to the first point in the entire video. When you're the consultant, you're the expert. You know the ins and outs of the business. You've been there, you've done it, you're the one instructing others. If you outsource your content creation, you are losing that expertise. You're not conveying that expertise. You're not conveying that company culture. You're not coming across as being consistent with your brand voice. And not only that, but you're the only one that knows these trade secrets. You are the consultant. It is your knowledge that people desire. That's why you're in business. And so if you're trying to teach people and you're trying to provide value to them with your content, then it needs to be your content. Just because you hire somebody out to do something does not mean that they're going to always do it well. When you keep it in-house, you know that you're providing the highest quality information. And if you know what you're doing as a consultant, which I trust that you do, then you have different trade secrets and you are the expert. So you're the only one that knows these things, and you're the only one that, not only the only one that has this information, but you're the only one that can communicate it effectively with your customers. And if the communication with your customers is not clear, is not concise, is not effective, and they're not receiving your message, and if they do happen to receive your message, it's not even your message, then they're going to be turned off from your brand, and they're not going to want to work with you. But if you're the one that's creating the content, you know what these people need to hear. You know what your customers need to hear in order to become your customers, because you've been doing it for so long. You understand how to do it. You know what you're doing. And so when you create that content, that is establishing a one-on-one connection with your customer, with your potential consumer. So now that we've talked about a little bit of why it is important for consultants to keep their content creation in-house, I want to talk about some potential pieces of content that you can create as a consultant. The first is simply a tutorial. If you're consulting on how to build a marketing funnel, or you're consulting on how to publish a book on Amazon, or you're consulting on some sort of engineering project, then the people that are going to hire you are probably already searching for this information online. And the people that are searching for this information are going to want to know how to do something, or they're going to want to learn a specific skill. And so if you give them a tutorial, then you can teach them through your content. So when you teach somebody, they innately, whether they realize it or not, start to form a bond with you. When they're relying on the information that you're giving them, they're trusting you and they're building a relationship with you. And so if you give them enough value in your content, your free content, and they go as far as they can consuming all of the free content that you put out, then they're going to want more. And they're going to want to come back, and they're going to want to pay you money for more content, for more of your time, for more of your advice. So by putting out tutorials, you are establishing yourself as an expert in your niche, as an authority in your industry. So consultants definitely put out tutorials. Now, similar to tutorials, teach concepts. Just talk about what it is that you're going to teach them. Again, if you're going to teach somebody, if you're a wellness coach, wellness consultant, you're going to teach somebody how to live a better life, then in your free content, give them a teaser. Give them, if you have an 11-step method for being happier, because an 11-step routine every morning for being happier, give them the first 2 or 3 steps as free content. If they want more, they can hire you as a consultant. They can hire you as a coach. So by teaching them concepts, by giving them tutorials, you are demonstrating your expertise without giving away all of the value that you have to offer. So the trick is to give a teaser. Give them what they need, a little bit of what they need, and then if they want the whole pie, give them a slice, give them a taste, but if they want the whole pie, then they have to hire you. And that's only fair because you need to make money too. So the idea is teach them, give them tutorials, talk about concepts, and just put out content. Let them know where your head is. Let them know what you're thinking. Let them know what they should expect if they were to hire you. Because by consuming your content, they are essentially saying that they're interested in you. They're interested in what you have to say. And as a consultant, that's kind of your business. I'm in the business of telling people, giving people advice, of coaching people, consulting. So if you give them a little taste for free, then they're going to want to come back for more. So that's why consultants should put out tutorials and they should teach concepts. I also think, similar to interior designers, you should do case studies as a consultant. If you have helped out somebody tremendously, then you should share that success story. If you, for example, teach people how to publish books on Kindle, or you teach people how to sell products on Shopify or eBay, and you helped somebody get from $10 a day to $1,000 a day, that is an extremely valuable case study. People are going to want to know, how did you do it? What did you do? How did that person get from 0 or from 10 to 1,000? And if you have a case study to where you show theoretically the steps behind what you did without giving the meat of what you actually did, what you actually told them, the different strategies and techniques, you're again giving your prospective buyers a teaser. When you give them a case study, you're going very in-depth on something. Let's say you're going in-depth on taking people from $10 a day to $1,000 a day through e-commerce. Let's stay with the same example. Well, if you have a case study showing exactly how you did it and how you brought that person from point A to point B, and people can see logically how you got that other person there, they're going to want you to take them there too. Because a lot of people are not making $1,000 a day. In fact, most people are not making $1,000 a day. And if you can offer that to your prospective customers, and you can show, hey, I've been successful in helping my clients reach this, then they're going to want to hire you because that is very valuable. So give them a teaser, do some case studies, teach concepts, do tutorials, and teach. Spread your message, spread your knowledge, spread your brand, and establish yourself as an expert in the industry. So we talked about tutorials, teaching concepts, case studies, all around giving teasers, okay? But one other thing you could do, and I'm not going to go into too many more because I want to keep this video relatively well timed. You could do a day in the life. So you could say, as a consultant, this is what I do every day. And this is how I make my money. I wake up and I do this, I do that. This is what I do for my morning routine. This is what I do for here. This is what I do for that. And so if you give people a little bit of an insight into your own daily life, they will be more connected to you. They will feel like you are a real person, because you are. And that people want to connect with other real people. They don't want to connect with a corporate veil. There's nothing to connect with. They want to connect with another person. So if you're showing them, hey, I'm a real person. I get up and I eat breakfast. I put my pants on one leg at a time. Then they're going to connect with you. They're gonna have a relationship with you. They're going to start to, care about you as a person and realize that you care about them as people and that you're just trying to help them. You're not trying to take their money. You're trying to help them reach their business goals. And so over time, all of your content is going to convince these people that they need to work with you. And once you've done that, then they're going to become your clients. Once they're convinced that they need to work with you, they're not going to not work with you. They're going to work with you. So you just need to continuously put out content, and especially content that is created in-house. Again, none of these ideas are viable if you are not doing content in-house. You just can't expect somebody on the outside to be able to convey all this information as well as you can. It's not going to happen. It's not feasible to think that. So create your own content. Do it in-house. Build systems to make it easier, and you will, in the long term, see significantly better results. So again, consultants and interior designers and any other industry, any other business, everybody should keep their content creation in-house. Okay? Now I want to talk about one more example. So now we've talked about the importance of keeping your content creation in-house. We've talked about the fact that you're the expert. We've talked about having a consistent brand voice. We've talked about conveying your company culture. And then we dove into the different ideas for content creation for interior designers, as an example, for consultants, as an example. And now this last example is going to be for app developers. And for app developers, you absolutely have to keep your content in-house. And, my message is staying consistent, and it's going to continue to stay consistent because of the importance of keeping that content creation in-house. Now, for an app developer, why do you need to keep your content creation in-house? Well, your app has very specific functions, very precise functions, and it has a certain functionality. If you're going to show off your app, then you need to be the one doing it. And you might want to bring in customers to test out your app on video or on camera or through a podcast or something like that. But that is the only sort of external forces that you should have in your content, because you know what your app can do, and nobody else is going to be able to share that with prospective customers as well as you can. So in addition, you have also put forth a tremendous amount of effort into your app. You have probably put a whole lot of love into it. And for somebody else to create content about it, to speak about it, they're just not going to have that same passion for it that you are. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing and you're not trying to passionately share that with your customers, then they're not going to feel it. They're not going to feel passion that isn't there. So you need to keep that content creation in-house because it allows you to share your passion for your app. It allows you to show exactly what it can do. So you can flex on that. You can show people all the different functions. Some apps like Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word, those kinds of things barely get used to their full potential. I mean, there are so many different pieces of functionality that people don't even know about that exist. And so you don't want your app to get overlooked because people think that it can't do something that it absolutely can do. And the only way to really share that with your customers is by creating your content in-house, keeping it in-house, and doing your content creation in-house. So let me give you some examples of ways to create content as an app developer. So the most basic one is a demo. I mean, you can just do demos after demos after demos showing how your app works, on what different platforms it works, mobile versus web, Android versus iPhone. You can show all these different demos of how it works, what it does, what it can do, the potential for it. You can show the limits of the app. You can say, well, we were going to add in this thing here, but we decided not to add in function A to the app because we wanted to add in function B. And this is why we chose that. And you can show all that through demonstrations, and you can show all that through tutorials and how-tos. And the more you teach people and educate people about your app, and educating and teaching the right people, the more that they're going to realize that they need your app, and the more that you're going to show them how useful your app will be to them and how much value you are providing to them. So think about it from the customer side. If they're going to be purchasing a calendar app, would they rather purchase the app that they know how to use, that they've already been consuming the content of that app developer, that they know the ins and outs of it, they're already familiar with the layout, they don't have to read an instruction manual or anything like that, or the app that they know nothing about, they've never consumed any of the content about it, and they haven't even really heard of that developer before? Well, they're going to choose the person that they're familiar with. They're going to choose the company, the business that has been providing them with all this value for so long because it was done well. Now, if they've been consuming your content and it seems like you hired somebody for $10 an hour to write for you, and they just spit out and regurgitated an article from Google, your customers are going to know. And they're going to say, well, I have heard of these people, but I didn't really like the content that I consumed from them, so I'm probably not going to do business with them. You got to keep your content creation in-house. You absolutely have to keep your content creation in-house. So you can do demos, you can talk about uses. Again, and I love these, this is why I keep going back to them, but you can do case studies. You can say, this was a 60-day period of somebody using our app, and this is how it helped them. This is what it allowed them to accomplish, or this is what they accomplished through the app. Let's say that you were the app developer of Flappy Birds, just for example. Well, you could do a case study of 60 days of playing Flappy Birds. What the person learned, what they liked about the app, what they thought could be improved, all the different adventures that the person went on in order to play Flappy Birds. Well, they played Flappy Birds with their friends. They did all these different things, and that's interesting. That's something that people don't normally do, and they don't normally see, because companies don't take the time to pump out the sort of content that would really resonate with their audience. So if you can be on this forefront, on the leading edge of content creation by keeping it in-house and doing it right, then you have a significant advantage over your competitors. A significant advantage over your competitors. So you can do case studies, you can do demos, you can do uses. You can even do reviews. You can get people to come on to your show, to your YouTube channel or whatever, and you can get them to talk about your app. And if you find people who enjoy using your app and who like using your app, they're probably going to say very nice things about it. And so you're not only getting that third-party credibility, but you're also still creating your own content. And you're showing that you care about your customers. You literally are putting a customer on camera and asking them for honest feedback about your app. So people are going to respect that. They're going to resonate with that. And they're going to say, well, if this person really does think this highly about the app, I want to give it a try too. And so the key here, again, is to get creative with your content creation, and more importantly, to keep your content creation in-house. Do it internally. So we've talked about a few of the reasons why you should keep your content creation in-house. We dove deep into 3 different businesses, interior design, consultant, and app developer, and talked about how important it is to keep that content creation in-house, and gave some examples of how to keep it in-house, of some things to do, some content to create. But I want to take this time to talk about the long term. So in the short term, it may seem like paying a freelancer some money to write a few blog posts for you is the easiest thing to do. And in the short term, it might be easier. But as a business owner, you need to think long term. And you need to be looking 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. And you need to be thinking from the perspective of your customers, what do they want? What do they want to consume? How can I connect with them? How can I resonate with them? How can I constantly be on their mind to whenever they think, oh, I need a new iPhone case, bam, they think of your company. Or, oh, I need a consultant on this, bam, they immediately think of your brand. That's the power of content. If they're consuming your content on a regular basis, then they're going to be thinking about consuming your content on a regular basis. And that means that your brand is stuck in their mind. So if you give them very, very good content and you make it worth their while to come consume your content, then they're going to. And not only are they going to, but the right people are going to. Because if you truly are an expert in your field, and you are providing an insane amount of value to your customers, to your prospective customers for free through content creation, then you are setting yourself apart from the competition. Now, think about if you just hired somebody else to do it, and you just didn't want to do it. Well, in the short term, it's probably not going to do you any good, because sticking one blog post every 2 weeks on a website and not doing anything about it is not going to build up your brand and build you a reputation as an expert. But think if you took your content creation and did it in-house, and you really did a good job of it, and every week you put out a new video, you put out a new podcast, you put out a few ebooks here and there, you put out articles, you share it all on social media, you really got people connected, and you started forming a community around your brand. And you do this consistently, week after week, year after year. Over time, there will be nobody that can compete with you, because so few people, so few businesses and brands have established their authority over years and years that you're going to be on a completely different level than your competitors, and a level that it will take them years and years to catch up to. So think long term. Don't think of what's easiest to do now. Think of what is the most beneficial to you and your business in the long term. So I want you to think content creation, and I want you to think content creation in-house.
So I hope this video has been helpful to you, and I hope that you now understand the importance of keeping your content creation in-house. So Dr. David and I, again, my partner in this endeavor, Dr. David Zemmels, who's a PhD, he and I have actually built out a more in-depth resource where we show you precisely what to do and exactly the steps that you need to take in order to build your content empire, right? So this video training workshop, while we think it's very helpful, it talks more about the theory of why these things are important and specifically keeping it in-house. But this resource, when you click on the link below, this resource is going to help you build that empire, right? Because you want to build a content empire, you want to get your name out there, build your personal brand, build your company's brand. So we're going to show you how to do it step by step. So click down below and go grab that resource now. Talk to you soon. Bye.